Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Rainmakers podcast. I welcome all of you wholeheartedly to the podcast, and today is going to be a very special episode. We believe that words are singularly the most powerful weapon. It can heal, it can help people become better, it can inspire, it can motivate, it can make people feel nothing, feel small. It can also make people destroy people. So, what I would say is that the more we use words positively, we can create rain. We can be the rainmakers of a better world, a better universe, and through words, we will be able to make a difference. I welcome all of you to the Rainmakers podcast. Today's theme is something that we usually do not talk about. Rape and sexual assault are difficult things to talk about. Our society shames the victims, accuses them of being at fault, and makes it impossible and makes it extremely difficult for the victims to speak up. Today, let's talk about it. And in order for me to touch a subject that is challenging, we have a co-host who is a lawyer, who is an activist, who is an absolute feminist, who stands up for the things that really matter. And to help me with hosting this podcast, please welcome Donna Balasurya. Donna, thank you very much for being here.
Thank you very much, Yoga, for having me. It's such a great
It's
honor
great
and
to have you.
also
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Next up is it's my responsibility to welcome the the speaker of the session. She has a story that is heartbreaking, but from there she has grown on to become a podcast host, an award-winning author, keynote speaker in many different countries, and an amazing person who has uplifted so many people to be open and to create a world that where people can share about things that are absolutely impossible. We warmly welcome Madeleine Black to the podcast. Madeleine, thank you very much for being here.
Thank you, Yoga. It's lovely to be here with you.
Great. I hope everybody can hear. Everybody is here, and everybody can hear all of us. Thank you very much for already sending us messages. Thank you very much. I appreciate it because of the sensitive nature of the discussion today. If there is anybody who wants to send a message but do not want to mention their name, I encourage you to mention that within brackets in your comment so that I'll be able to discuss it without mentioning your name, ask the question on behalf of you. Feel free to send us questions. I'm sure Madeline will be here to discuss it further and carry it forward. Madeline, I think the story that you have is a heartbreaking story, but I think that is exactly where we should start from. What happened to you made you who you are today, and that is the story and the message that you have been spreading throughout the world. So why don't we start from there, Madeline, and take it from there?
Sure. So my story really starts when I was just 13 years old. It was back in the late 1970s, and a friend and I had a night out that went very wrong. We did what most teenagers, especially in the UK, do. We lied one night to our parents about where we were staying, and we had an empty flat to go back to. We bought a bottle of vodka. I had never ever drunk before, and I was half the size I am now. So it didn't take me very long to get very drunk. And we were in a cafe at this point, and once I threw up everywhere, they kicked
Is
us
it
out.
me or is there a delay?
Can you hear me okay?
yes, for me
Yeah.
it's very clear. You can go ahead, Madeline.
Okay. So two men left the cafe at the same time that we did. They put us into a taxi and they took us back to her mum's flat, which was empty because she was away. And, it became very
Perfect,
clear.
perfect, Madeline. Please go ahead.
Okay, it became very clear very early on that these men weren't there to take me out of the clothes I'd been sick in or put me in the bed to sleep off the alcohol. And to cut a very long story short, they both raped and tortured me for about 4 to 5 hours. When I woke up the next day, they had gone. They threatened me before they left and said if I spoke about it, they would kill me. And, I believed them. I looked into the eyes of one of them and I thought, without a doubt, you could definitely kill me. I saw something in his eyes that terrified me. And then we just went back to school the day after that and pretended like nothing had happened. But obviously, what we don't speak about, it has to come out somehow. So I became anorexic. I had an eating disorder. I had depression. I used anything that I could to numb out, forget. So I used drugs and alcohol. And I didn't really understand the point to being alive. So one day I took a load of my mum's pills to try to end my life, and I ended up obviously not succeeding. But at the point at that time, I was so disappointed. I thought, I can't even do that right. But then I'd spent a few months in a psychiatric hospital. And when I came back, my behavior wasn't any better. I would say that I really just partied even harder. And my parents found out I was smoking a lot of drugs, and they decided it'd be a good idea if I went away for a while. And I went to Israel for a year, which is where I met my husband a few years ago, about 37 years ago now. Both look very different. And, he was just the first man I really felt safe with. And something in my gut, in my heart, told me instinctively I would be okay with him. And he asked me to marry him. But, that was about 5 years after we met. And I thought I have to remind him that I'm never going to become a mum, because I thought it was going to be like being raped again. It was the idea of being pregnant, giving birth really scared me. But what I call my best revenge was having my three daughters and living my life as best as I can. I just refused to be identified by what had happened. And I really thought that that had healed me, doing the very thing I thought I could never do. But when my eldest daughter became 13, all my memories returned. Everything that took place that night came back. And at first I thought I was going mad, because I thought if it was so bad, I would remember it. But then I realized I'm now a psychotherapist. Our mind shuts some memories down that are too painful. And whether I believed it or not, they come back when we're ready to face them. So I went back to therapy again. I was the worst client, because I said, take these pictures away. I don't want to see them. But I realized after a few years of fighting with my memories, denying them, that actually I had to stop that. I had to really face everything that was happened to me in order to find peace. And very near to the end of these years of therapy, the idea of forgiveness came to me, because he suggested to me one day, my therapist, maybe these men weren't born rapists. And it sent me on this journey of inquiry, because I wanted to understand how two young men who weren't much older than me, maybe 17 or 18, how did they know to be so violent? And somehow, I felt compassion in my heart, because I thought I've done a really good job of living my life, but they have to live with what they've done to someone else. And I don't think that would be easy. And so, I have to be clear to say, I'm not a forgiveness preacher. I don't tell everyone they have to forgive in order to heal. There's many, many paths to healing. And I would never forgive the act of rape. But for me, forgiveness was about forgiving me a better chance. It allowed me to cut the chains that tied me to them, that tied me to my past. It allowed me to let go of all the anger. I could accept what was done to me and realize, I'm not what was done to me. I'm so much more than the sum of one night. I'm not my body or the things that were done to me. All of us are more than our events in our life. So eventually, forgiveness brought me peace. And that's where I'm at right now. That's a very kind of shortened version of my story.
Yeah.
You have any questions?
Such
It's
a
hard.
heartbreaking story, Madeline. But then what you have become from that experience is something absolutely amazing. More power to you, because nobody should go through an experience like that. But I think only a few people rise from such an experience and become what you have.
I guess I share it for many reasons. I want to break the shame and the stigma and the silence, but also to show people that actually I'm not a superwoman. We all have strength and resilience inside of us, and we all have a negative mindset which can be changed. It's about tapping into your own strength and your own resilience, because I do believe that all of us are so much stronger than we think we are. We really are.
I completely agree. I think it's so great that you were able to find the strength in order for us to fight, and then become this, and also now share this message with everybody. So many people, we have heard in your interviews how so many people have benefited from it and have shared stories. We will discuss it.
Well, sadly, I know my story is just a story of many, many people. It's not just a UK issue, it's a global issue. So I'm sure in Sri Lanka as well, there will be women and men that have been abused or sexually assaulted or raped as well. It's not just an issue that's typical here, it's a global issue. So I know my story is the story of many people.
Yeah, 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 definitely. I agree, Madeline. I think all of everybody everywhere. I think it is a problem common to the whole world. So thank you very much for making that difference, Madeline. If I have to ask the first question, then this first question to you, that is, the transformation is amazing. You have such an amazing transformation, and how important was it to speak up? Speaking up, how important was it in making that transformation?
Absolutely, that's what changed everything. I first shared my story about 6.5 years ago with an organization called the Forgiveness Project, based in London, who share stories of forgiveness. And I just shared it online with them. And they told me I could be anonymous, but I was just tired of being ashamed and hiding for a crime that was committed against me and my body. So I decided to share it with my name and my photo, which was quite brave because I was still terrified. A lot of my friends maybe didn't know, and the ones that knew, they didn't know all the details. So sharing it just put me on this incredible journey. And then that's when I really learned the power that comes when we share our stories, that we're not storytellers, we're story healers. That's what the founder of the organization says, that we're story healers, because I do believe there is a healing power that comes not just for the storyteller, but for someone that's listening to the story. That really comes when we hear someone else's story. It can transform someone's life at that point if they hear it at the right time, and it can light up their map for their own healing. But I don't expect everybody to share their story publicly. What I do, I guess, is not easy for everybody to do. For me, it feels like my purpose. If I can do this, then I really should. But for anyone that's listening, to also remember, I didn't get to this place overnight. It's been a real journey. It's not a sprint, it's a marathon, I would say. And I would just say, even if you've never shared your story, it doesn't matter what your story is, but something that brings you shame, or it's holding you back in some way, just find someone to share your story with. It doesn't have to be a
Yeah.
therapist, it can be a friend. But I think to really speak your truth, to be listened to be heard, and to be believed. There's nothing more empowering than that for anybody, man or woman.
Correct. I agree, Madeleine. So I like the idea of how you're not just a storyteller but a story healer. I think words can heal, and stories can inspire, and I think that is exactly what you have done. So that's a beautiful way to put it across, I believe. Madeline, I think also the social stigma that when a girl wears a boy wears provocatively, or goes to a pub late, or walks at the night late, or accompanied by not by any people, it feels the society might say that they asked for it, the boy or the girl asked for it, and make it very difficult for the victims to speak up, because the society will immediately say you asked for it. It is your mistake that what has happened to you has happened to you. How would you address that, Madeline?
It's the only crime that I can think of where we blame the victim so much. I mean, if your house is burgled, the police don't say, "Oh, well, you had lovely furniture. You know, what did you expect?" But really, stranger rape, stranger murder is about 10% of all crime. 90% of rapes are carried out by somebody the woman will know. There'll be somebody they may be married to, somebody in their home. There can be a relation, a friend, a neighbor, you know. So, this idea of thinking that clothes or alcohol or walking alone cause rape is nonsense. 100% of all rapes are only caused by one thing, and that is rapists. So I don't know if you're following the news in the UK at the moment. There's a woman called Sarah Everard who sadly was murdered. I don't know if she was raped, but she was murdered by, they have accused a police officer. And at the moment, the outcry is huge because she was walking home. She was dressed well. She was wearing bright colours. She called her friend, her boyfriend, on the phone home, on the way home. And already people are saying, well, what does she think? She was out
Yeah,
walking. Walking doesn't cause rapes. You know, we know that babies are raped. We know that women in burqas are raped. Women are raped in the afternoon. Women are raped when they're 90. It's nothing to do with the victim. And the victim blaming really just silences women or silences victims, and it protects the perpetrators because it keeps people quiet. You know, if we've seen this respectable woman and people are blaming her right now, they're thinking, well, why should I report it? And it also makes you think, well, what if it was a woman who was out buying drugs? Or what if it was a woman in a short skirt? What if it was a woman of color? What would they say then? Just because she seemed like a perfect victim, there's just been this massive outpouring of empathy, and we've had vigils all over the UK, which unfortunately ended in violence by the police as well, which was awful because it was just women and flowers really at the vigil. But yeah,
I
the victim
yeah.
blaming really
It's
needs to
very
end.
sad. It's very sad, and I think you have repeatedly said that the shame of the act is never of the victim, but it's always of the
Oh,
offender. And
absolutely.
we should never make somebody who has gone through such a traumatic experience feel as if it's their fault something so bad happened to them. I
Yeah,
think,
because when
I
we
think
when we say things like, "Well, you were walking home alone," it makes a victim think, "Well, I should have done something different, then I could have prevented it." No
exactly,
amount of safety advice will make any difference because it's not our
exactly.
issue. The issue lies with the men that rape women.
Yeah,
Nothing to do with the women that are raped or the men that are raped. It
the
comes down to
yeah.
the rapist.
It
Absolutely.
definitely is a common issue. There are women and men who are raped, and as you have said in many other interviews, also it is men who are the party who rape. So yeah, so even though it's a common issue, it is how it is. So yes, the social stigma should be broken, and many more people should speak up. And then I think by that, by people coming forward to speak about it, I think we will be able to break that social stigma. That is my belief.
I
Uh,
hope so. Also, sadly, in the UK, the justice system is not very justice because the conviction rate is so low in this country. So many go unreported because it's very traumatizing to go through a court process. And if you go through a court process and you get re-triggered, and then you don't end up with a conviction for the rapist, it's destroying. You know, it's
Yeah,
heartbreaking. So you
yeah,
think, why would you put yourself through that if
true
literally
that.
only 5% will end in a conviction? In the UK, they've really almost decriminalised rape because the conviction rate is so low of the cases that make it to court anyway.
That's right. I hope Donna will join. She's a lawyer, and she wanted to ask you questions about
Yeah, she
the
keeps
legal.
disappearing, I can see.
Yeah, exactly. He's joined. I think there is an internet connection issue anyway here. Also, I'm also facing some delays in hearing you, so there is a delay. But then I think this is how it is. When life happens, right? But I think
Absolutely.
our conversation is much more important than the issues that we face. Madeline, one of the things that truly inspired me while listening to your story was the fact that you were able to forgive somebody who did such a big crime that, almost made you weak, who almost made you small, and but then still you had the courage. You found the courage within you to forgive. How did that help? What is the process to do something like that? Like
Well,
it's
before
not
I
something commonplace.
Yeah, before I forgave them, I was filled with hate and anger and revenge, and I was very bitter and hostile and sarcastic. I was very, very different to how I am now. And forgiveness, it wasn't anything to do with them. It was for giving me a better chance. It was really about self-empowerment, self-love, um, valuing my self-worth. It was about letting it all go. Or acknowledging all that had happened to me, realizing I couldn't change the past anyway, and if I wanted to stay full of hate and bitterness to the end of my days, it was going to affect me. It's not going to affect them in any way. So I was just determined just not to be identified by what had happened to me. A crime was committed against my body. I'm not that crime. I'm not
Right.
even my body. I realized that the took me a long time though. The true essence of who I am, that could never be touched by what they did to me. But this has taken a lot of years. I didn't get here, as I said before, overnight. But forgiveness really was nothing to do with them. It was a decision I could make in my heart. And it just allowed me to let all of the negativity go. And it's a lot more peaceful like this, much more peaceful like this. I can tell you that.
It's very courageous. As you said, I don't think it's easy at all. We have petty fights and we can't still forgive people. But then look at what has happened, and then you had this great courage to forgive people, so that you will be free.
Yeah.
Because that hatred will hold you back and then would have kept you down without letting you be the true self that you could have become. And I think that's absolutely amazing for all of us to learn, because I think that is the way to go. The moment we understand that it is not your fault what happened to you, and it is the crime that happened, and the shame is not yours. The moment we do that, the moment we wash our and say, uh, we forgive so that we can be free, I think that is when we could truly be free. So yeah, I agree completely. That's a beautiful message. That's something very important for all of us to carry. Thank you very much for that. Donna's back. I hope her internet stabilizes so that we will be able to. We just touched on how the UK's legal system has almost decriminalized rape there, because the people who get convicted is very low. I'm sure we are going to touch upon it, but I would like to ask Madeline, if if something like this happened to somebody, I think, as you said, most of the people, we do not hear about rape because people do not talk about it. It's not that it has reduced from the good old days to now. I don't. There is much
Mm.
progress there, but what has happened is even though it exists, what has happened is people do not still come forward to talk about it, and for that reason, we do not hear it enough. Um, but if something of that sort has happened to you, how do we start dealing with it? It's very easy to self-loathe and be sad and not talk to people. Try to go the exact opposite direction of drinking more, partying more, not speaking to people, like you said, not eating at all, and being extremely difficult. But if we are to deal about it, what can somebody do? How can they start? Where can we start to deal with it?
I think, it's so normal to deny what happened, to minimize what happened, to say it wasn't that bad, to put it out of our head as much as possible. But really, it's about speaking it, because that then releases all the energy that's locked inside our body, because it's caught. All the trauma is in our cells, it's in our body. And when we speak about it, we give it oxygen, so it moves all the energy inside of us. So find someone to share your story with, and if you can't find someone, tell yourself your story. Stop denying what happened. Write it down and read what you've written, but find someone really to share your story with. And that is a huge start, because I could never even say the word rape. I remember when I was training as a psychotherapist, somebody had written the word therapist on the blackboard, and they put a line between the E and the R. So it said the rapist. It was about doing bad therapy on someone. And I couldn't even look at the blackboard. It was just, too much for my mind to see the words written there the whole of my supervision session. So you had to find someone to really work it with, because you just need to get back to a place where you're grounded. So for me, really, I left my body that night, which is what saved me from being killed, I think, or from dying. And it's taken me years to really get back into my body. So that's also been a huge part of my journey, to connect and to be grounded and to be land back in my body, really, because for years I was just a house with no furniture. I was just an empty space inside of me, really.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. So to speak to somebody, to write it down. I think you said how you communicated it to your parents. Your parents were asking you, what if you're coming home late and you're going out late, and what if something happens to you, and then you wanted to say it in words but you couldn't. But then before you went to
It
school,
was
you wrote it down.
blocked in here. Couldn't
Yeah,
I literally couldn't speak at all. So that's the only way I could tell them. I left a note on my pillow, very briefly describing the details of what had happened. So I could
yeah.
tell them. That was about 3 years after it happened. So when I was about 16, I told them that way.
Yeah, that's right. So at least try to do that. Even if you can't find the courage to say it, let's at least write it down, communicate it to somebody, because keeping it to yourself is not going to help you
Yeah.
heal. Is the message, I guess. Yeah,
And I guess
yeah,
be careful who you tell your story to. Make sure it's someone that you trust. And for the
yeah,
person that's listening, make sure you don't ask too many questions. Just really keep the space open and just be
yeah,
there to support them and
yeah,
believe them. They're not going to tell you this for nothing, because if they hear 1 ounce of doubt, it could shut them down again for years. Or they'll be thinking, oh, they don't believe me. I could see in their eyes, or, it's too much for them to hear. So just be as open and as supportive and nurturing as possible. Just treat them kindly.
that's right. I think that brings me to the next question, Madeline. I think nobody trains us how to listen to somebody going through trauma. All what we are trained in this fast world is to deal with happiness. You have done something great, I appreciate you. You have done, you had great food, you are sharing a picture of it, I will appreciate it and I'll send you a heart. But people, and worst yet, the next generation is not trained enough in how to deal, how to listen to people who have gone through trauma and want to share the sadness within themselves. So
Mhm.
my question is, how should we listen? I understand we should not be judgmental, but then if somebody is wanting to talk to us, how do we build that trust? How do we listen in a way that they don't close down? They open up even further and then speak their heart off so that we can help. I think this is not something that we are trained, so it will help us to understand how we can
Yeah.
help by
Well, I think the
listening.
very first thing you said is to have no judgments, which is why it's not about asking questions. Because if you start saying, "Well, where were you and what were you wearing and what did you think," so don't ask any questions. Just let go at their pace.
Yeah,
So they may want to speak, they may not want to speak. They might want to sit in silence with you, but if you can sit in silence with someone, and that's a huge thing to do. They might just want to cry. Everybody is going to respond differently. It's about going at that person's pace, whatever that means, and looking after them. Run them a bath, make them good food,
yeah,
take them on a night out, keep them inside, whatever they want to do, but
yeah,
just go at their pace, but no judgment. No advice. If they want to report, it's up to them. If they don't want to report, that's up to them as well. It's not our
yeah.
decision whether someone reports it or not. But yeah, really just to go at someone else's pace and follow their lead, I would say.
Yeah, I think one thing that was very important that you said is no advice, because I think the first thing that people do whenever somebody comes and talks to somebody else is to offer advice. Especially, I think men, we feel like that's a problem that has to be solved, and we come up with all the
You're a
solutions possible. Yeah, in
yeah.
good intention, I think that is how we are built. That we are built to solve problems, I guess, and that is where we come from. But it's not a bad thing. But then, I think we all should learn how to listen without offering advice. Is what you say. That is very true. No judgments. Don't offer advice. Make them comfortable so that somebody who has gone through trauma, gone through an assault, could speak to us, because by speaking they could save themselves. Because there are people who have never spoken. There are stories that you have shared in the past where you have delivered a keynote or a podcast, and people who are 80 years old have said after 65 years that
Yeah.
they come to tell their children that they themselves have gone through something like that.
Absolutely. It was my friend's mum, actually, who was listening
Yeah.
to the radio. I was interviewed by a very famous British broadcaster, Sir Trevor MacDonald, which was wonderful. But it was afterwards, she turned to her daughter, my friend, and said that she was raped, and she was 81 at the time, and she had never told anyone. So she'd kept that secret in for 64 years.
Wow.
And I just think, I'm sure she's not alone. My friend thought,
Yeah, that's true.
if she hadn't heard me, she would have taken her secret with her. And she said
Yeah.
the sharing of her secret now has changed, like so much between them. She shares other things now that she never used to share before. So she's learning even more stuff about her mum. So she said otherwise that part of her would have been locked down and she never would have had any idea what have happened to her. So yeah, that's the power of sharing stories, really. That's what it can do to someone. It can unlock the years of silence.
As you correctly said, pointed out at the beginning of our conversation, stories can heal and words can heal. You call yourself story healers, and I think for good measure, because somebody who had kept that secret for over 60 years was able to free herself of that burden that she was carrying, because she was willing and happy to. She was able to see somebody so freely and courageously share that story. So that's absolutely amazing.
I think she realized that the shame wasn't hers. People are
Yes.
drowning in shame. It just
Yeah,
holds them back so much for fear of judgment and what other
that's
people
true.
think. And she just realized, I don't have anything to be ashamed for. That it was all this
Exactly.
inappropriate or misplaced shame that she had held on to for years. Like most people, it's all misplaced shame because it's such
Yes.
an intimate and personal crime that normally we implode and we take it all so personally. But actually, it was nothing to do with me. It was just
Yeah.
wrong place, wrong time. It could have been any young woman that night that they picked up. So I don't take it personal anymore because I know it wasn't about me or my body. It was just
Yeah,
wrong place,
absolutely.
wrong time.
I do have a question, Madeline. Like I was listening to you,
Sure.
and I was deeply moved by your story, and kudos to you for all the courage that you've used to enlighten others' lives, also to give a voice to the voiceless, and it's amazing. But I was just thinking, what could really be the cause? Like, because women are mostly the ones who are getting victimized. This is not going to be a session where we bash men, but then it is women who are mostly victimized by the sexual offenses most of the time. So I
Hmm.
was doing some research, and what I really understood was that there is a difference in how we see the problem. There's a difference, there's a gap between how men perceive the sexual offenses and how women perceive sexual offenses. So for women, mostly it's something to do with violence. It traumatizes them. But for men, for some men, it's more like something to do with their sexuality. It's more like an achievement for them. And I think it is this gap which we need to address if we are to find a solution. That's my opinion. What do you think about it?
Well, that's called misogyny, really, isn't it? It's gender-based violence is the root of it comes from misogyny, men believing that women are their property and their rights and they can do with us what they want. So really we have to go to the root cause of gender-based violence and we have to educate our children from preschool, from a young age, so they understand what consent is and healthy relationships and respect both genders, not just boys and girls. So we're very clear that we can eradicate misogyny, everyday sexism, violence against women out of all societies. But it's conditioning and it's cultural and it's steeped. It's been there for so long, but the more of us that speak out, it's going to change. We can't allow this to go anymore. But yeah, it's abuse is really power and control, and it's having power over women. But we deserve to live in a world where we're equal. That's all we want, really, to be equal, and that does not include gender-based violence. It doesn't.
Absolutely, absolutely. I really love the answer, and also I think it should start from a school's perspective and how to respect women, and then women shouldn't be perceived as sex objects, or that objectification of women has to stop. And I think everything starts from there. Yoga, I think you can go for the
That's
next question.
Yeah, that's very true. I agree. I agree to what is being said, but I think also to re-emphasize, I think it's not only a women only problem in this world, but it's also a male and female problem. I think like Madeline said, correctly pointed out, and Donna added, people we have to, I think, teach people that what is consent and what is right and what is wrong and how to speak and what not. I think only then we will be able to make a difference, and I agree to that completely. Um, Madeline, the next question I would like to ask is: this horrible incident happened to you at 13, and you have now have three beautiful children. You have spoken of them very highly and happily, and I'm sure when the first child reached 13, it's a mother's feeling how what could happen to my daughter. That fear, I'm sure, would have engulfed you and would have brought back all these bad memories. And there are times when, for no reasons, our parents become overprotective because they don't talk about what has happened to them, and they are overprotecting us from what had happened to them, from their experiences. So how did you handle that? Did you go through something like that when you had to deal with your daughter growing up to be
Yeah,
13?
they always knew what had happened to me, but I used language that was appropriate for them, whatever age they were. So if when they were little, they knew that two boys hurt mummy very badly. That's really what I told them. But as they got older, especially nearer to the age that I was very clear about rape and domestic abuse and consent, and they, it was a normal part of the conversation. I also told them that I hate lies, and if ever they're out and they're in trouble, whether they're drinking, doing drugs, they've lost their money, whatever, phone me and I will come and get you, and I will always be there with no judgments. And that's how I've always treated them. So they've always been very aware of what happened to me, because I want them to know what can take place in the world. But yeah, I
That's
had
right.
fears. I was so worried the same thing could happen to them. But then I saw my fears. I woke up to them and I thought, I really struggled to have these children. And I thought, what would be the point of having them if I overprotect them? And, I cover them in my own fear. So I had to really let them live their life, because I want them to be independent, strong, fierce women. And if I wrap them up in cotton wool and never let them out, they would never get that. So at 15, my eldest daughter was out clubbing and she was drinking, which is what most teenagers do in the UK now. She's very sensible. She's 27. She's engaged. She has a dog and a fiance, a home. So, it's very different
Amazing.
now. So, yeah, I had to really watch my fears and be very careful that I didn't put my fears onto them. It was an issue for me.
Yeah, but, out of that, on that answer, Madeline, what I really liked is the fact that you created an environment within home that, irrespective of what has happened to them, whether they are drunk, whether they have taken drugs, whether something bad has happened, irrespective of what it is, call and we will come and take you. Because
Mm.
at times, I think in our society, parents become overprotective, and also they ask. Uh, they expect us to be always on our best behavior, and we are so afraid if something wrong has happened and if we talk about it, It's going to affect our relationship with the closest human beings that we have, who are supposed to support us. And
Yeah.
out of this fear, we never talk about it. And then,
It's true. I mean, the very first time my daughter was drunk, Anna, she was about 15, and her friends stopped her from phoning me. And she said, no, no, phone my mum, phone my mum. She said she'll always come for me. And then eventually they allowed her. And she said they were scared of calling me. They thought she would get into trouble. Then she said to
yeah,
them, I told you my mum would come.
yeah,
Then after that, they started phoning me when they were drunk because they didn't want their mum to know. So I'd go out and rescue all these teenage girls.
that's
So,
amazing.
yeah. You
Yeah,
know,
amazing.
I wanted them to be safe and I wanted them to know I wouldn't judge them. It's a normal part of growing up. It just, unfortunately for me, the night I tried it, it just went very wrong indeed. But yeah, mostly no harm has come to them.
Great, fabulous, fabulous. I think creating such a positive atmosphere and culture within home where people feel safe, I think will help a lot of people. I think very important. Yeah, yeah. Donna.
Yeah, and yeah, I was thinking of the whole thing because I'm coming from a legal perspective here. I'm also a lawyer. That s- starting from about 20, 30 years back, I think law has evolved drastically. And first, there was nothing called the marital rape, but then now marital rape is recognized, and there were instances where women were submissive in what really happened. But then, since there were no physical marks to prove that rape occurred and rape happened to them, and their cases were dismissed. But now there is a clear demarcation where they distinguish between submission and whether there was really consent or not. So the law has drastically evolved, but yet we see that there are so many loopholes. And what do you think about the whole legal stance that is there at present in UK, as well as, like, if you take the world as a whole? Do you think that, are you satisfied with the current system?
Well, it's good to hear changes have been made, and it's good for people to recognise that rape in marriage is illegal. And unfortunately, it is a high percentage of women will know their abuser, as we said before, but there's still so many changes that are needed. So I'm a patron for quite a few organisations, and one of them is an English one. I'm based in Scotland, and it's called Justices Now. And we look at challenging all the rape myths and the victim blaming messages that are used by the judges and the lawyers. That's just within the criminal service. So, I mean, if the judges have that attitude, can you imagine what the public have? So we can't be naive to think that when a jury comes in, that they don't come in with preconceived ideas. Well, she was drinking and she did go to his hotel room, or blah blah blah. Look what she was wearing. And we're working with the judges and the solicitors. So that's shocking to think that we have to do that. In Scotland, it's even worse than England because the percentage of all cases that make it to court are very low. And then the cases that actually end in conviction is something like 4.5%. So why would you bother reporting it? Why would you bother going to court just to re traumatize yourself, to be re triggered? I worked for a long time at Rape Crisis, and I saw what going through a court process does to women when they're a witness in their own trial. It's not easy. It's really hard to expose yourself and to be up against the defense's questions. It's not an easy thing to do. So we've come some way, but there's a long way still to go, definitely. And we heard a few years ago in Ireland, there was a female judge who said to the woman whose trial it was, well, you were wearing lacy thongs. What did you expect? But underwear doesn't cause rape. And how did he know what her underwear was? He'd have to have taken her clothing off to get to there. What was amazing was then all the Irish women and a lot of men took to the streets waving their underwear in the air, saying, "This does not cause rape. It comes
Yeah,
down to the rapist." So, yeah, we've come a long way, but there's a long way to come still. A long way.
correct, correct. We live in a society where children are raped and murdered. So I'm sure the child did ask for it. So yes, I definitely believe that it's not the fault of the victim. The shame is never on the of the victim or upon the victim, but it definitely is of the person. Um, Madeline,
Absolutely.
I
And
know,
I
I,
think
I
I
know we have taken a little bit more time than we can. We have asked you. Can we go for another 5 minutes before we conclude?
Oh, no problem.
Fabulous, fabulous. Donna, you were saying something.
Yes, I was just going to add to what she said. I think the whole problem is, we are talking that one of the greatest issues of rape is that definitely, we the victims do not speak up. But one of the factors that the victims also do not speak up is because that they're always re-victimized when they go and ask for help. And it's
Yeah.
definitely something that we need to look upon. And then I was happy, that when yoga suggested first that this is going to be the topic, because this is not typically a topic that a man would want to talk
Yeah.
about.
It
And
always touches my heart when men want to speak about rape. So I'm very grateful to you, Yoga, for bringing this to your platform. It's brilliant. I totally agree, Donna.
Thanks.
absolutely. And so what I was thinking was that we see that there is a lot of blame upon men, especially when it comes to rape. But then there are also men who would want to contribute, who would want to stand up against this. What would you say to all these men? How can they contribute?
It
And
is. It's not just a woman's problem. It's not just a woman's problem. It's all of us. You know, violence against women is violence against humanity, and it's all the little microaggressions that add up. So if you are a man and you're laughing with your friends at porn on your phone, or you're laughing at a joke in a locker room, you know, or you're a builder and you wolf whistle at someone walking past, all of these things are crimes against women. They are all sexual harassment, sexual assault. So it's up to all of us to make these changes. So you have to step up. If you're traveling home on the train and you see a group of guys, you know, harassing a woman, you intervene and you check she's okay. You don't just ignore it and move on to the next carriage. It's up to all of us to make the difference, to step up, to not allow these assaults to take place.
Yeah, I agree, Madeline. I think when I was small and I was schooling, I have seen girls get sexually assaulted, but I did not know it was our duty to. Most men at that age know, we are never taught that it is our duty to do that, duty to stand up for it. But now times have passed, and we now learn that it is our duty. So things have changed, but I think this is something that we have to teach people and educate people, so that people will stand up for each other, whether it's a male
Yeah.
or a female. Whenever somebody is assaulted, we stand up for the other person, because not because it's the coolest thing to do, but it is our duty to do, to stand up for somebody else who's.
Yeah, they just did a survey in the UK because of this young woman who has just been murdered. And they said between 16 and 24, they did a survey with this age group, young women, 97% have been sexually harassed or assaulted in some way.
Yeah,
97%. And I'm sure it's no different in Sri Lanka when you're on
yeah,
public transport and somebody stands too close to you or gropes
yeah.
you or speaks to you inappropriately. All of these are all assaults against women.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I think the more people speak about it, I think it will become better. But the problem is, there has was a time when we don't talk about it at all. All our information comes from wrong places, like the education of sex for male children or women, for girls, could come from porn, and that could completely destroy how a child, male or female, perceives sexuality, and how they address it. There are actually, Madly, there are two questions. Before I'm sure Donna wants to ask a very important question, but before we move on to that, there are two questions. One is Harsha asking, what are the suggestions toward persuading a society driven by male domination that sexuality is not an exciting thing, but then it's just a biological instinct, and not to treat people as if it's.
Well, I think when you call it a biological instinct, then that's pretty victim blaming, really, isn't it? It's to suggest that men can't help themselves and women
Yeah,
are the fault. So I totally
It's not.
dispelled that question. Sorry.
Right. Yeah, I agree. No, I think what it means is that I think it also comes from a place of saying the world is waking up actually for consent. I think people did not know what consent was. It was a given, especially in marriages. I think we spoke about it.
Yeah.
We touched upon it slightly. Now it's a crime. So I think the world has progressed towards it. I think we are learning towards it. I think unfortunately, most of the legal system in this part of the world has not yet adopted the things that the Western world has adopted a few years back. So yeah, I understand where the question also comes from.
Yeah,
Uh,
we need
but
to learn
but what
about
you say is
men, but it seems to suggest that men can't help themselves, which is
no,
rubbish because
no, of course not,
you
of
know,
Yeah,
course
and
not.
most
also,
men
and
can really
also
make
I
a
think
choice.
and also I think we've passed that stage, uh, for like it's we have passed that stage some time back, because like that's where the whole point of civilization and everything comes into place, because you're
Yeah,
not just acting upon your instincts. You need to
Yes.
respect others, you need to think about others, and your behavior, your conduct has to be governed. So which is why we are living in a civilized society. So if we are just to act upon our instincts, that's not
yeah,
the way that a civilized human is supposed to be acting.
yeah.
And so I think that is. And am I allowed to go for my question, Yoga?
Sure.
Sure, sure. It's you're the co-host. Feel free.
Sure. And what I was thinking was that definitely, like, of course, what is happening right now might not be the best as we see it, but definitely it has had a huge transformation and evolution from the past to what it is now, and the perspective of the society about rape and sexuality, and all of us being sexual beings has changed a lot. So for instance, I was just going through a research that they have done, where young men are asked, would you take the chance of marrying a woman who has been raped? Where in that research, like, I was very happy to see that about 90% of the men are like, of course. I mean, it's just something that has happened to her once, and that does not really define who she is. And that was the response, which I was very happy to see. And definitely the perspective has changed over the topic. And what ideas do you have about it, Madeline?
Well, that is really good to hear that. But there's still, in the UK, porn is so accessible. Boys as young as 8 years old who have a smartphone can access porn, and they think it's very normal that you don't kiss a woman when you're having sex because they learned about it in porn. They think it's normal that a woman cries when she's having sex because that's how they learn. All from their phone in their hand. They have this computer there. So yeah, we have a lot of education still to do. A lot of education.
Madeline, on that direction, I think is progress, and definitely there is a lot more to do. Uh, but are you? Can we all be happy of where the world is moving towards, and is the progress happening at a pace that you would welcome it?
I think it's a bit of a paradox, really, isn't it? Because it's great that so many people now, especially in the UK, are speaking out because we're talking about sexual harassment. This week has been an awful week for women. It's been International Women's Day. We had people attacking Meghan Markle for speaking out about mental health. We had a woman murdered, and then we had Mother's Day. So we had all these mixed messages
Yeah,
all over the place. But I think it's hard because people are speaking out, so we're hearing all these stories, which is really good, and then that's really hard to hear all these stories because it takes place so much, it's around so much. But yeah, I think the more of us that speak out, we are stronger together, and we are like an army that's being created, an army, a force, and our voices will be heard, and change will come. Absolutely, I think women now will refuse to accept what my mother's generation accepted as a normal way that men treated you. My girls will never ever know what it's like for your boss to expect you to sit on their lap and they can grope you if you're working in an office. My mum said that was normal. She's now in her 80s, so they will never know that. So we've come a long way, but yet we still have a long way to go.
yeah, yeah. I like the conviction with which you say that the future generation will not do that, will refuse to do it,
Yeah.
because people like you are fighting for it, and then you are raising your voice, and people now learn from, are inspired and motivated by people like you, and I think that is what making everything that is possible for the world to,
Yeah, well,
for the world we live.
I didn't always have my voice. It was hearing someone else speak that helped me to find my voice, and I just intend to pay that forward. And it's a massive ripple effect. If I can help someone speak out, then they will one day help someone else speak out, and then it goes on and on and on. So it is a ripple effect. It really is.
I agree. And in one of your interviews, you also talked about how a boxer, a male boxer, was raped at his young age, when he was 10, and then didn't
Yeah,
talk about it. But now he shared about it, because male rape also happens. They don't talk about it because it makes them weak for somebody to have raped a man, and they don't talk about it at all, and nobody encourages them to talk about it also. But then now the society is moving towards a place where it's
yeah,
all right for men and women to come up and share their story.
absolutely. I don't think it's any harder for either gender. In fact, I don't think men actually get the same level of victim blaming that women do. When a man comes out, you don't hear anybody say, "Well, what were you wearing?" So
Yeah,
we are still more stigmatized than men, but it's not easy for either gender. And yeah, I
correct.
know who you mean. It's Callum, and he is brilliant because he's the only male boxer in the UK that speaks out about male rape. So he's doing an amazing job. He really is.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. That's right. Donna, would you like to go for one more question, or we let Madeline go? I think we have taken a lot more time than that
Yes,
we were offered by
absolutely.
Madeline, and she has been absolutely amazing. Yeah, this has been nothing but an amazing discussion.
See, but this statement here, in the one hand, yes, it's nice to hear somebody call you brave, but on the other hand, I don't want to be brave. I want it to be normal that we can speak about the difficult things as well as the good things. I want children to grow up to say, "This happened to me and it's not right. What should I do?" I don't really want to be brave, if that makes sense. I want it to
Yeah,
be
Yeah,
really okay
it,
for us to talk about all of the stuff.
absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely.
You want it to be, you want it to be the normal
The
thing
norm,
to do. You don't
correct.
want this to be an achievement. Somebody, a super, this, you don't want this to be something a superhero or superheroine would do.
Yeah,
This
because
this
I'm
has to
not
be.
I'm not a superwoman. We all have that strength inside us. Really, we're all so much stronger than we think we are.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
I
that's
think
right.
out of the whole thing, what I can understand is, yes, it should be the norm, and people who are coming out, yes, in this context, yes, everyone is celebrated, but rather it shouldn't be something celebrated, because it should be really the norm, and it should be normal for both men and women to come out and speak up about it, so that the real perpetrators will feel bad about what they have done, and it will be discouraged from the society.
Yeah, well, I don't even think I don't speak out just to make the perpetrators feel bad. I feel out really to support other victims, other
Yeah,
survivors.
yeah,
But I think when we don't speak out, we silence ourselves, and that protects
yeah.
the perpetrators. So I want to end the silence to
Absolutely.
stop protecting them.
Yeah, rather than trying to make the perpetrators better or good or feel for what they have done, which may never happen or which might happen. But then I think we should take the side of the victims who have gone through this pain and suffering, and empower them to speak up, so that they will not feel small, and they will not live a life that is not full, and they will not become the people that they can be. I think that is more important, than trying to make the perpetrators feel for it.
Yeah, no,
Good
no,
if
but
it
what
happens.
I really wanted to, let me correct you there. What I really wanted to say was, we are not just doing it with the motive that the perpetrators would feel bad, but what I'm trying to say is, they will be discouraged from
Yeah,
committing such wrongs in future, because
yeah,
there is a conversation, there is consensus that this is wrong in the society. Unless
correct.
Yeah,
that happens, it will be perceived as an achievement, and
yeah.
it will be continued in future as
That's
well.
right. That's
Let's
right.
hope so.
Yeah, let's hope so. So, Madeline, thank you very much. We have reached our mark, so we will conclude it there. We have taken enough and more time of yours. Thank you very much. You
You're very good.
You have been such an amazing host. It was very easy to speak to you. Your story is one that inspires a lot of people. Thank you very much for speaking up and also coming here to speak with us, because in our part of the world it's not something that is commonly spoken of. We look up. We want to have people who will speak about it. So thank you very much for speaking up and being the person you are, who is trying to who has a mission that now will help many other people take up this stand and then speak about it and support the idea, so that many other people will live the life that is full, like you. I think your story is one, not one, like you say, is not one where you have been affected. You are not the crime that was uh, uh, that happened against you, but the person who you have become. So more power to you, Madeleine. I hope and pray that you will have the power to inspire many more people and try to create the world that you perceive to create. And more power to you. I hope, I wish you the very best. Thank you very much for being such an amazing guest today. Donna, your concluding remarks.
Yeah, absolutely. I also really love the conversation, in the sense it was very easy. It was an easy conversation, although it's a very uncomfortable topic to
Yeah,
speak about in the current context. So again, all the very best to you, Madeline, and again, as Yoga said, more power to you to contribute in a much bigger way and enlighten many women, give the voice to all the voiceless women all out there, and be their power.
yeah.
So all the
Thank you.
best to you.
I encourage everybody to follow Madeleine Black. You can visit her website, madelineblack.co.uk, or Mad Black in almost all the social media profiles. Unbroken is her podcast. There is a book that she has written. I'm sure all of this will help. If it could help at least one person, then I think the job is done. Madeline, more power to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
See you.
Appreciate it. Take care.
Thank
Bye.
Bye
Take
Bye.
care.
bye.
Good luck. Good luck.